Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you've been tracking business headlines at all, you know AI is, well, it's everywhere.
It's the new executive mantra.
Exactly. From financial towers in Naxal to manufacturing hubs out in the Terai, it's being sold as this silver bullet.
The one tool you need for modernization, for growth. Leadership is pushing for it, and they're pushing hard. They want results they can see.
And yet, something's not right. Underneath all that frantic activity, there's this quiet, very expensive crisis unfolding.
It is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
All these high-profile AI initiatives, the custom chatbots, the predictive analytics engines, they are overwhelmingly failing to deliver.
That's the paradox we need to crack open today.
Yeah.
The tech is there, the budgets are huge, so why is the ROI so low? What is the real barrier here?
It's a fundamental error. It's an error of sequencing, really, and institutional neglect.
So it's not the AI itself.
No, not at all. The barrier is the data foundation underneath it. We're deploying these brilliant algorithms on top of foundationally broken, unreliable data.
Yeah.
The real issue is decades of neglecting something called data governance.
So this is the data swamp you've mentioned. It's not a data shortage. It's that companies are actually drowning in data they can't use.
They're absolutely drowning. It's a toxic morass of fragmented, unstructured, just inconsistent legacy information.
Give me a real-world picture of that. What does that swamp look like inside a big company?
I mean, think about it. You've got customer records scattered across, 4 different incompatible software systems. You have sales figures in a dozen different Excel formats.
Yeah.
And crucial historical data. It's locked away in poorly scanned PDFs, or even worse, in dusty old paper ledgers.
That is the data swamp.
That's it.
It paints a pretty devastating picture.
Yeah.
It's like executives are trying to build this digital skyscraper, this AI penthouse.
Like quicksand, precisely. Yeah. And that error of sequence, that's the mission for our deep dive today.
They're buying the penthouse before they've even laid the foundation.
Exactly. And we really have to explain why that mistake creates this crippling, compounding economic debt, and why this massive, painful budget correction isn't just a prediction, it's strategically necessary for survival.
Okay, so let's start there. The failure isn't the AI, it's the foundation. You call this economic technical debt. Let's get into our first section, the cart before the horse.
Right. The strategic mistake here is it's just human nature, you know?
What do you mean?
Leadership is drawn to the shiny new tool, something immediate, something tangible they can show the board, put in a press release.
The fireworks?
The fireworks, exactly. But data governance, that's abstract, it's slow, it is politically very challenging.
Because you're telling different departments how to do their job.
You're forcing them to agree on standards, define who owns what, and do this painful data cleanup. There are no immediate fireworks there, just a lot of frustrating committee meetings.
And so it gets pushed off indefinitely. And that's what leads to this fragmented reality. So beyond incompatible software, what are the little things that break these models?
Oh, the devil is always in those details. The most common point of failure is identity.
Identity?
Yeah. Take a big company that's grown through acquisitions. One division CRM might have a top client as P. Sharma, another knows him as Pradeep Sharma, and a third has an old entry for Pradeep S.
It's all the same person.
It's the same high-value client, but the AI, it
Yeah.
sees 3 totally separate low-value individuals. It learns nothing. It concludes nothing of value.
And then there are those tiny clerical errors a human would just glance over,
Right.
but an algorithm can't.
Constantly. We see it all the time with dates. You have the 80 calendar versus the Bikram Sambat calendar.
Right.
Or just simple formatting issues like DDMMYY versus MMDDYYY. Or just typos. And AI trying to find historical trends hits that mess and just, it gives up.
Which brings us to garbage in, garbage out, the old GIGO principle from computer science, but now it's derailing multi-million-dollar corporate strategies.
GIGO is magnified 1,000 times here. An algorithm built to cross-sell financial products can't find a unique customer, so it spits out useless leads.
Or a supply chain model fails.
Because the inventory data is unreliable. It's inconsistent, or, like we said, some manager fixed it in Excel to meet a target. The failure is never the AI. It's that the AI is being fed noise, not signal.
And this creates a toxic cycle, right? The failure gets blamed on the AI model or the vendor.
Of course. So the company scraps the expensive tool, buys a new one, and just repeats the whole disaster instead of fixing the actual problem.
The foundation.
It's a resource drain that kills confidence and this is the key, it accumulates that economic technical debt. By ignoring the foundation, you're not saving money. You're borrowing time at an exorbitant interest rate.
Because the swamp just gets deeper.
Deeper, more complex, more entangled. The cost to clean it up goes from expensive to exponentially prohibitive. The people with the tribal knowledge of how it all works, they leave. And the decay just compounds year after year.
That idea of compounding decay is terrifying. Okay, so if companies are drowning in raw data, but starved for actual insight, there has to be a bridge. Let's talk about the governance gap. How do you get from a simple fact to something actionable?
We have to walk through this hierarchy that most companies they fail to complete. People think data management is just 2 steps. You get data, you do analysis.
But there's a middle step.
There's a crucial middle step that data governance has to manage.
Okay, let's use a real-world example, say, from a Nepali bank. Start with the raw material, data.
Right. Data is one single isolated fact. For our bank, that's a raw transaction record. NPR 5000, ATM withdrawal, 10:32 a.m., New Road branch.
By itself, that's pretty meaningless for big decisions.
Almost totally meaningless. So now we move to the next tier. Information.
And this is where the governance comes in.
This is it. Information is structured, standardized, organized data. It's clean. It's linked to a specific unique person or thing. We take millions of those raw facts, make sure the time zones and customer IDs are all consistent, and suddenly
A pattern emerges.
a pattern emerges. Customer X does 80% of their withdrawals from New Road branch between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. That is information.
From there, you get to the ultimate goal. Insight.
Insight, the actionable intelligence. Now the bank can conclude, okay, our New Road branch is systemically understaffed during this peak time. We're creating long queues.
That's a huge operational insight.
And based on customer X's consistent cash flow, they are a perfect profile for a pre-approved small business loan. That is what generates millions in value.
So data governance isn't just a tech add-on. It's the business discipline that turns raw data into useful information.
It has to be seen as a core business discipline, not an IT task.
It's the rule book.
It's the rule book that prevents chaos. It answers the fundamental questions. Who is the official steward for financial data? What is the single enforced definition of an active customer across all our divisions? How do we measure data quality? Without those rules, entropy just wins. The swamp consumes everything.
What's fascinating is that the sources for this dive point to non-tech factors, these cultural inhibitors, that actually make the swamp deeper. It's a human problem.
It's absolutely a human problem. 2 things are really prevalent. First is high employee turnover. That leads directly to what we call institutional amnesia.
Institutional amnesia, meaning the knowledge just walks out the door.
All that crucial unwritten data logic, the tribal knowledge of why that old database works a certain way, it's only in one person's head. When they leave, that knowledge, that unwritten governance is just gone instantly.
Wow. And the second cultural factor.
It's a culture that prioritizes informal workarounds over rigid systems. The quick fix.
The silent killer.
That's a good way to put it. Think of the sales manager who needs a report for a board meeting, like yesterday. The data's a mess, so he manually fixes a few entries in his Excel sheet to make the numbers look right.
He thinks he's being a hero.
A small, local act of heroism. But he has unknowingly corrupted that data set for every single future analytics project. Data just isn't treated with the same sacred rigor as financial assets. And that has to change from the very top.
That's a perfect transition. Because local execs are feeling this pressure from the outside, looking at markets like India, where it seems like AI is being deployed with just breathtaking speed. Let's move to section 3, the illusion of agility.
That observation from the outside is valid. India is launching solutions faster. But just looking at the surface is so dangerous.
Because you miss the why.
You miss the foundational truth. Their speed isn't just about better tech. It's the dividend from a decade of nationwide government-led data governance. It's built on something called the India Stack.
So we need to understand what that is. The India Stack Aadhaar, UPI, DigiLocker. It's basically one of the world's biggest data governance frameworks, isn't it?
It is. Aadhaar, the biometric ID system, is the absolute key. It created a single, standardized, verified identity for over 1 billion people.
One person, one ID. No more P. Sharma versus Pradeep S.
Exactly. And UPI came and standardized real-time payments. Together, they created this single interoperable digital bedrock for identity and transactions.
So a new fintech startup in Bangalore doesn't have to spend years and millions trying to figure out who their customer actually is.
No, They just plug into these pre-governed systems. The cost and complexity of building a reliable AI model just plummets because they're building on clean, verified, state-mandated data architecture. The identity problem is already solved for them.
Okay, now contrast that with a company operating here.
A Nepali company often has to build its own identity and transaction systems from the ground up, all while standing on that chaotic, fragmented internal infrastructure we talked about.
The data swamp.
They're trying to replicate the India stack, but department by department, it's a sprint towards a cliff because they're always fighting that internal data entropy.
So the big counterintuitive lesson for everyone listening is that real sustainable agility, it actually comes from the slow, disciplined, painful work of building that standardized architecture first.
That is the strategic lesson. The speed you see in some places now is the result of years of prior governance investment.
Now, obviously, Nepal isn't going to replicate a state-led project like the India stack, but does the principle still apply?
It applies perfectly to corporate strategy and, maybe more importantly, to industry collaboration. Think about industry consortiums like the Nepal Bankers Association. They could lead this.
So they could agree on standard definitions for core banking concepts, like loan at risk.
Precisely. If every bank agrees on exactly how to define, measure, and report a loan at risk, then suddenly the opportunity for shared AI models for better regulation, for efficiency, it just explodes. Without that consensus, the corporate race to AI stays deeply inefficient.
And maybe ultimately futile.
Maybe.
This sets us up for the big strategic outlook, where this is all headed. Let's go to section 4, the strategic outlook and this 80% correction you mentioned. Because the current path of just pouring money into broken systems, it's not sustainable.
It isn't. It's forcing executives to a critical inflection point. They're hitting a wall. There are repeat failures of these big, expensive projects, plus that rising technical debt. It means the next 2 to 3 years will be defined by one thing, a confrontation with the data swamp.
And here's the forecast that just stopped me in my tracks. By 2025, a staggering 80% of corporate budgets that were initially set for AI innovation are going to be reallocated. Where does that money go?
It's going to the unglamorous but absolutely essential work. Data cleaning, data migration, building governance frameworks, implementing tools to manage data consistency.
So it's not a failure of strategy.
No, it's a long overdue market correction. It's a moment of budgetary sobriety.
Okay, let's break down the two paths that are emerging for leadership. Scenario 1, the strategic pivot, the ones who realize they have to slow down to speed up.
This is the smart group. These leaders will hit pause on the big, ambitious AI projects. They'll sanction the budget and the political capital for a real data overhaul. And crucially, they'll invest in what are called master data management platforms, or MDM.
Let's define that quickly. What is an MDM platform?
It's the tech tool that actually enforces all the governance rules you create. It builds and maintains a single, reliable, authorized record for your core entities, your customers, your products, across all those different systems. It's the engine that finally solves the Pratik Sharma problem.
And these leaders will also appoint chief data officers with real power.
Real cross-functional authority to make the change stick.
Now, they're going to get criticized for this, right? In 2024, 2025, they'll look like they're falling behind on innovation.
They will, but the long-term payoff is huge. By 2026, 2027, that solid, clean foundation lets them launch AI initiatives that are infinitely faster, cheaper, and more impactful than their rivals. They'll be the ones capturing market share because their insights are actually reliable.
Okay, now scenario 2, the stubborn incumbent.
These are the companies trapped by sunk cost fallacy, by executive ego. They'll keep blaming vendors, the talent market, the economy, anyone but themselves.
And they'll keep pouring money into new AI tools,
hoping for a magic bullet that doesn't exist. The result is a chronic resource strain, deep demoralization across their teams, and a growing competitive disadvantage.
And by the time they're finally forced to deal with their data swamp, say in 2028,
the cleanup cost will be prohibitive. They'll have been decisively outmaneuvered by the companies that pivoted earlier.
The hard truth, then, is that the most valuable corporate asset isn't a factory or a brand anymore.
It's a clean, governed, and accessible repository of standardized information. That's it.
So, wrapping this up, what's the key takeaway for an executive listening to this right now?
The race to AI profitability. It will be won by the company that masters its data first. The new battlefield isn't technology, it's discipline.
So to our final thought, what is the one question that leadership needs to ask before they sign off on the next big AI project?
It's a simple foundational question. Before you approve that budget, you have to ask your team, What is the official, governed, and completely consistent definition of our single most important business metric, whether that's profit or inventory or an active customer, across our entire organization?
And if you can't get a clear, concise, and consistent answer to that single question,
Then your budget is already misallocated. The data swamp has already won.